Okay, do I have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Okay, let's go jump right in. Um, we have for the agenda, the first bullet point is the first bullet point is the FY 2026 proposed budget discussion. And I think I'm going to let Commissioner Dan lead this conversation because there's some preface that we need to put in context to the lack of funding that was put in last year that we kind of, just got notification of how this kind of came all about within the last 24 to 48 hours. So, Commissioner Dan, if you could kind of summarize that, we'll go into that conversation and then we'll slide into the funding for this year.
Okay. Well, we can talk about this year's, but the good news is that the 400,000 was put in the budget for this year, the proposed budget. So that was great. But then just saw, I don't know, early this week that there's a supplemental budget that was just being introduced, and the council will begin hearing it next week. It's on their agenda but a supplemental appropriation. So apparently the original $400,000 from 2 years ago, I don't know the technical way to describe it, but apparently it was passed in the budget, but it didn't get allocated some way. So it wasn't properly allocated or put in the right bucket. So in this new supplemental budget that is being considered for, I think, was it 10.8 million or 12.8? Anyway, that's the budget that's for a number of important changes, and they have to do, it looks like some important moving things around so that there's some federal funds, it looked like to me, that were going to sunset if they didn't get spent by the end of this year or something. So making some moves around so that those can be fully realized, and then other funds, we don't miss out on those funds. So there's some important things that are being in this, but in the middle of the budget, it said that there's $400,000 for the Fair Election Fund to make up for, I guess, the lack of putting it in the right bucket 2 years ago, the FY 24 budget. So that's in there, and that whole package gets considered as a package. And the way I understand it is that then that supplemental bill is referred to the Government Operations Committee, and that they'll have it in the hearing and then discuss it, and then they have to act on it before then it goes back to the full council. Don't know anything about the timeline for that, just that next Tuesday is the first hearing or the first reading, which just means that it comes to the council and gets referred to the committee. So that was a surprise. And what is the concern is whether that comes in and then becomes a talking point for some of the members who are not as supportive of the Fair Election Fund, and that they then start making negative comments, slowing down the momentum for approval of the new current budget and the 400,000 in that. So it just seems that we need to focus on getting, my point of view is we should focus on getting support and showing the value and being really appreciative that the 400,000 was put in this budget. Just assuming, the other 400,000 is there, it's just in the wrong bucket. But we don't even need to bring that up and draw attention to it, unless somebody tries going after it. It just seems that the negative downside is the potential could be that somebody that really didn't like the fund could try to go after that original $400,000 if it's in a bill and they don't like it, and they would try to put a roadblock in there, and then that would be bad news and probably a bad signal for the full budget, or the new budget item. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. We can be you're real positive about this. It's just we need to be alert and aware and ready to put down any negative attacks. But hopefully the administration can be fully on board at tamping down anything that might come up negatively. That they could just say it's a technicality, it's there. It's not going to take away from any other program this year. It's just a matter of moving it around. So hopefully they can do that for us, and we don't have to really even use any of our political capital to do that. So I guess that's my intro.
Thank you. I do have a question, and Commissioner Dan, you might have answered it, but I want to make sure I have it right from my understanding from staff. So the supplemental budget goes to the subcommittee. Can the subcommittee remove the money that was allocated in the budget from 2024 that it never got to where it's supposed to go?
I would have to ask the OMB director about whether that's even a possibility. But I can let you know that I did hear from our budget analyst, Ms. Jordan, and she did speak to the OMB director, Mr. Early, and he explained that it is an accounting issue, that the original 400,000 was reserved using general funds, but the appropriate accounting mechanism was not done to move the funds to the Fair Election Fund. So that is the intention of including that in the supplemental bill. But I would have to ask about whether there is even a possibility that a decision could be made at this point to eliminate those funds due to the introduction of that bill.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though this money was already voted on, allocated, everything in 2024.
Yes.
And they just didn't, what I'm hearing is OMB did not do proper, I don't want to say anything negative. Like, if I'm hearing you correctly, something accounting wise did not move that money over, but they can't.
Right. My understanding, based on the information I got from Office of Management and Budget, is that from a technical perspective, the funding has to be moved into the Fair Election Fund, the actual fund, in order to be spent for the purpose of this program. That action did not occur in FY24. And so this supplemental entry is intended to rectify that.
So if I could just ask a question just to follow up on that. Is this the only way to move that supplemental amount into the fund? It requires a full hearing of the council and a full vote of the council for something that's, to my understanding, was already done.
It does, in the sense that the funding has to actually, when the actual budget was approved, the funds were not in the location where they need to be in order to be spent for this program. And
they
so
were in the finance department's, I'm sorry, were they already in the finance department's budget? I thought they just had to be moved within the finance department's allocation to this fund. At least that's what I thought.
No, they were not, the funds were never in finance's budget. They were part of the general fund. Originally, they were under something called non-departmental funds. So essentially, funds that were not attached to a specific department or agency. And so the funds were supposed to go directly from that non-departmental bucket into the Fair Election Fund. They were never in the Office of Finance's operating budget. Those funds were never in Finance's operating budget.
So when we said we have 400,000 in the Fair Election Fund budget, that was not correct.
Apparently not, based on this email exchange and this supplemental, so that they were reserved for that purpose, but they were not officially put into the fund.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, Ms. Warner Wiggins. I think I have an understanding. I just want to make sure I have it clear. So the Fair Elections Fund is under OMB. They reserved the money out of the budget, but they did not put that money in the Fair Elections Fund under OMB. They just said, hey, this is the money that we're putting aside for Fair Elections Fund. And because that money never made it into OMB's budget or under OMB, however people want to say it, I really don't. It's the same thing. To go into the Fair Elections Fund, it never got into the fund.
Yeah, so the non-departmental budget it's not OMB's budget either. It's essentially a bucket of funds that are not attached to any specific agency.
Got it.
So, but OMB is the agency that manages those funds. And so when funds are specifically, when they are determined to be to have a specific purpose or to be allocated to a specific agency or to a specific fund, they have to actually be moved there in order to legally be able to spend those funds. So the funds were reserved, they were set aside. The intention was for those funds to be made available to the Fair Election Fund, but the actual technical mechanism to move them did not occur. And that's what this supplemental budget item would do.
So to follow up on that, I would thank you for that explanation. I think that's real helpful to understand. And so I think I have 2 points. One would be on the downside. I mean, I think looking at the politics of this, if there was, if there was a contingent of folks that really was looking for some $400,000 or $800,000, and they saw this, in theory, I would think they could claw that back and put that somewhere else, and that they could redirect that to someplace else. But I mean, that's a more negative point of view. So on the positive point of view, I would think the way it could go through Beth is for the staff and the whoever it is, Mr. Early or whomever presents this to the committee and goes through and walks through that, if they clearly identify this as a technical problem and that they sell that, it's part of a bigger overall package. So this isn't a hearing about these $400,000 and moving it. It's not a hearing about that. It's about the whole supplemental. Obviously, anything within that's fair game for questioning. But I think, so we want to be aware of possibilities and prepared, but we don't want to draw attention to this from people that might, be looking either to kill the Fair Election Fund or to just, they have other priorities that they want. Well, here's $400,000. So I'm optimistic that it could be presented and sold as a technical change and that it's there. And so the council, was an approved budget. It was put in by the previous administration, and we have another $400,000 in the FY26 budget. And so I'm willing just to go ahead and say, work hard for passage of that 2026 budget with that in it. And I think if we can keep the focus sort of on that and the importance of the fund and why it's needed at this time, I think there is political support, and I think there is community support. And we can talk about that in a minute. But I was at Glenn Ivy's town hall meeting last night, and there is, while this didn't specifically come up, there in general some stuff came up about federal campaign financing and how that trickles down and is impacting these. I think there's a lot of support in general for democratic reforms and protecting democratic values and things at the local level. So I think we can prevail and make our case with the council on the full budget, and we need to do that as soon as we can, and then that will help us get this through. So maybe I've kind of extended the discussion here to the next item, but that's it.
I mean, I think that's a good point because, okay. I think it's a good point because I know a lot of just the general sentiment of the country, particularly in this area, just because this is where we live, is there is a really big appetite to see some sort of reform, to see there being an even platform for grassroots candidates, and this is what we're here for. And I saw the coverage of that, and I heard kind of what people were saying in context to supporting that. And so just making sure that the council knows that while we understand budget constraints, this is from a larger perspective of the community feeling at large, unheard, unsupported, and their demands, requests being unfunded, and what that looks like for them in regards to representation. So I think that's the very good point. Hi, Mrs. Tolson, Commissioner Tolson. It's good to see you as well. I got your message. So teacher, you're off mute. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add that Mr. Maddox is on the call. I don't know if he has anything to add on the procedure within the council about this supplemental.
I have nothing to add. I mean, like I said, it'll come before the council and they'll vote either yes or no. There's nothing. I don't know what timeline it's going to be on or anything other than the council clerk will know that, like when it's going to be, through the process and what's going to be decided when. But I have nothing to add.
Okay, you didn't have an answer to the question that Ms. Warner-Wiggins was kind of trying to provide us an answer for, but she said she didn't really know in context of if they can remove this item from the supplemental budget or apply it somewhere else. Do you have an answer for that? Or do they have to just vote it straight up yes and straight up or straight down no?
You're talking about in the budget negotiations process?
No, I'm talking
you
about the supplemental budget that has a hearing coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And in that hearing, would they be able to remove items from the supplemental budget, change it, or anything like that? Or do they have to just vote the supplemental budget up yes, up down?
No, they can make a decision what they want to do with parts of it that they have concern. They can do that. That's
So
in
they
their
can
purview.
change this. They can change the supplemental budget.
They could if they have if it's before them in the form of legislation. Yeah, they can change. Any kind of legislation that comes in front of the council can be amended by the council.
And then I guess what are the legal ramifications? Because this is in reference to money that was allocated and not put in the Fair Election Fund from 2024. So we're like a whole year out and that wasn't properly allocated. So what would be any legal ramifications of them removing that funding that was?
What do you mean legal ramifications? Like they'd be liable for something? Is that your question?
what would be the legal ramifications or
It would
outcomes?
be
Or
removed. If they removed it, it would be removed. It
okay,
would not
but
make
the
it
but
there.
the point
Yeah.
of the okay, so maybe I'm not being clear with you.
Okay.
This was already allocated in 2024.
I
There
understand.
was an accounting mechanism that did not happen, that did not move that funding forward.
Okay.
Because of that, the supplemental budget that has this money in there is to rectify that mechanical issue. So if they then ignore the fact that this was a technical issue that did not fulfill something that was already allocated, are there any legal ramifications for that?
No,
Okay.
they just, yeah.
And kind of jump in at just one point, and that is, even if it were in the fund, I presume they would have the power to redirect it, to move it, take it out of the fund, to put it somewhere else if they wanted to. And is that correct, Mr. Maddox?
Well, they're going to vote whether to have it in or not in that supplemental. That's what they're going to do. They won't, I don't, whether they can then redirect it in that same, I don't think it'll be in that posture for redirection per se.
No, that's not what I meant. It was just that if it had, as we would say, correctly been allocated 2 years ago, from the beginning, it had been in that fund, it's still subject to being clawed back or moved around, because they talked about that last year. I think, one or two of the council members was talking about, well, maybe we should take that 400,000 and use that for something, because there won't be enough. If we're not having enough money in this year, there won't be enough money to really make it work in 2026. So we could just use that. So all I'm saying is that,
I don't
while
know.
it was a mistake, they probably, if they really wanted to, they could have gotten it.
I really can't speak on that part because I'm not really sure, and I don't want to speak out of school as to how they can do something accounting wise or anything like that. Would be more of the OMB or finance question. I don't know that part. Okay.
Yeah, and my point is that it's unfortunate that it didn't get in there, because this is just one other. We have to hold our breath and just hope that it doesn't get into sort of the line of fire and be subject to negative discussion, when we're really trying to focus on this $400,000 the current budget. So I think there's a good discussion, and to know that there's the possibility that this could go south if there was like a severe enough concern about the budget that they would just scrap the whole program going forward. But I think we've done a good job, and I think that the public is supportive, and I don't think it'll come to that.
And I would just add, as far as the actual mechanism for removing any money from a fund, that I'm not familiar with, but I would say that even if funding is there in the fund, it still has to be appropriated. So there is always the possibility that the actual authority to spend the funding could go away. Even if the funding is there, even if the fund has a balance, having a balance doesn't automatically mean you can spend all of it. It still has to be appropriated.
So if you could elaborate on that, it would be useful.
I'm sorry?
If you could elaborate on that, it would be useful in the context that if I was a candidate and I chose to run publicly financed, with what confidence would I come in and enter into the program? If you're saying there's money in the fund, but it needs, what does it needs to be appropriated mean?
That means through the budgeting process, it has to be determined that X amount of money can be spent during the course of the fiscal year. And so having the money in the fund does not automatically mean you can spend it. There still has to be an appropriation process through the budget process. So that's part of the budget process, is saying, and up till now, essentially, the way the budget has been written is as if what's in the fund can be spent, so that currently, as an example, a total of an additional $400,000 was put into the fund, which would allow 800,000 to be spent. But and I'm thinking particularly in out years. Even if there is a sizable fund balance, that does not necessarily mean that the budget will indicate that all of that money can be spent over the course of that fiscal year.
So I have one follow-up question. That is then if, well, let's just assume that the supplemental goes through as it's written or close enough, and so that we get that into the fund. Then in the FY26 budget, is there another step to ensure that that 400,000 goes immediately into the fund? Is there another hoop or process to get it into it?
Well, that's what the current FY26 budget process is for. That would allow that full, the way it's currently proposed, it would allow that full 800,000 to be spent. But it has to go through that whole budget process, and it's going to have to go through that budget process every year. And so what you may find is that especially and I don't know if this will happen, but it could be that when we're not in an election year, that spending authority is not going to be there to the same level that it would be during an election year, as an example.
I mean, so just
that's what this budget process is for, the FY26 budget process.
So just to sort of clarify in my own mind, since the matching funds don't begin to be distributed until July, which is the FY 2026 budget cycle, right? So the distribution of the funds coincides with the final determination of the FY 26 budget and the passage of that budget.
Right.
So it's all in sync once this budget process is completed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on the budget and the items that we brought up?
And I just to chime in as well, as Mr. Maddox has already said, Ms. Jordan responded to my question about the line item. Does the council have the ability to strike a single item or individual items from the supplemental bill? And she gave the same response Mr. Maddox did, which is yes, they could. But she did add the caveat that it's highly unlikely in this situation because this was supposed to have happened already. And so the request is more about correcting something that should have happened already, as opposed to, and even the language in that supplemental summary that Mr. Smith said, it talked about how the transfer in is it's just a transfer of revenue. It doesn't it's not adding to the budget. It's just moving money from one pot to another pot.
I think that's a really important point, that there's not approving that part of the supplement budget isn't taking 400,000 from any other purpose. So I think that really supports that it's a technical change. And so I think the momentum is on our side and that we should roll with that, but just keep our antenna out. And it'd just be helpful if if, if the OMB or finance office, whichever is going to be doing the testimony on this at the hearing, if they start hearing that this might be under attack, we would hope they would double down and support it and potentially advise us whether we should be testifying there. But if not, I think we should just stay away and not draw attention to it unless we really hear that there's an effort to take it.
Yeah, good point. Okay. I think the next item that we have on is the conversation about the updated manual. Did anyone have any additional comments or suggestions for that?
The questions I had, I thought we really, it was very helpful, the discussion last week. We were able to keep that going a little bit longer than I think we had originally intended. So I thought that was helpful to me. And so I don't have any more questions. I think they got pretty much discussed the ones I had raised.
I would have to agree. I feel like that the conversation went on enough last time, and where all the stuff all the kind of questions and thoughts and feedback got answered. And then we have the updated one, but I didn't want to give the other commissioners an option to give feedback as necessary. So if any other commissioner has anything to say.
I did not have anything else to add. I think it was fine as is.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Okay. Now we are at the end of our agenda with next steps. I know I agree with Commissioner Dan in context to not making waves in relation to the supplemental budget, but I do think if any of the commissioners can physically be present for that hearing, once we find out what that is, to do our best to be physically present for that hearing, just to hear and be in person and see what they say. And Commissioner Tolson did reach out to me and said that she agreed with what Commissioner Nelson said about the booklet, the guide.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? I had to
Yeah,
think
no,
about it.
she messaged me I'm sorry, she messaged me in the chat. She was
Oh,
like, yep.
okay.
She said
Yeah.
ditto to you. And I was like, oh, the agreement. All right. Well, at this juncture, I think the next steps would just to kind of be us following along to make sure that they are moving forward the supplemental budget as they should. And then also, like I said, if any of us can be present for that, obviously it's just volunteer basis, but if you can be present for that, I think that'd be great. Or at least watch along so that we know when we come back and discuss this in April.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we might need to talk about our next meeting because, well, the 9th is not spring break. Okay, no, never mind. So okay, if we could be there for that hearing, and then also go ahead.
Yeah, I just was wondering now with the guide, what's the next step with the guide? Is that to just post it online? And I mean, there's already one candidate, I think, that's in the process, so we'd send it to that person. And then is there any other outreach we want to do to make it available, or we're just sort of on our own? Well, let people know and share that as something available.
Yeah, no, it'll be posted to the state's Board of Elections website. The same location where Montgomery County, Howard County, and Baltimore City's guides are. So anyone who is running for elected office and interested in public financing, when they go to that webpage to go through those steps, the guide will be posted there as well.
So could you just keep us posted as to when that might be? It seems to me that would be a great opportunity for to do a little bit of just PR, and when that is available, I think it would be helpful to just raising the profile and interest in the Fair Election Fund, and also then especially in the FY26 budget, that just a good messaging opportunity. Here it is, and then for people who are kind of election nerds or just curious, they've got this great resource and can take a deep dive. So if you just keep us posted, you know, if we know like it's going to be posted within a week, or if it gets posted, just let us know so that we can do outreach. And is that something that the county at all would consider the communications department to include that in some of the county outreach? I guess I would encourage that. It seemed like that would be a legitimate, valid thing to let people know status of the Fair Election Fund and the details available.
Yeah, as far as the posting, the guide with given that there's no additional comments, the guide is in a state where I can send it over to the state tomorrow. And then it's just a matter of whatever time they need to actually post it on their site. I imagine it would not take long. So certainly within a week and possibly same day. But it is up to that office to take care of that piece of it. And then I can reach out to the I mean we have the counties what is that? The agency that works with the various groups. Drawing a
Are you
blank.
talking about 311?
Not 311. The Office of Community Relations.
Community relations.
Yes, yes, thank you. So I could ask them to send it to their contacts if that's something the commission would be interested in.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested in that, as well as for us to post it on our website,
Yes.
the website that they have for the county. And then Commissioner Nelson asked if you'd be adding, I guess, page numbers to the guide.
The in the updated version has the page numbers.
Okay.
Yep. And the table of contents as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
you.
Table.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's what she meant. She
Okay.
meant page numbers to the table of contents.
It should be, you should see it in the one I sent today.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to send it out to, I think that we should partner with the Office of Communications and send it out that way, as well as posting it on our website as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think previously we talked about sending it out through the Office of Communications to civic associations and so on.
Mhm.
So I think that would be a good step.
Okay.
Okay.
So one other question, and that, if I could do that, and that is, should we, or I guess I would, it's a statement, I guess I would advocate that we would send a letter to the council, or at least, we just discuss for a minute, should we, now that the 400,000 is in the FY26 budget, should we send a letter to the council, to the chair and all the members, and just urging them to retain this, or to keep this in the budget, that we were very pleased that it was there, or vice versa, we could even send a thank you to the acting executive, Jackson, and thank her for including it, and then copy that to the council. Is that a valuable thing just to ratchet up the visibility and our support?
What if we did both? Like we wrote a letter thanking the acting county executive for her dedication to this and seeing how important it is, particularly in the current climate, and then also writing a letter to the county council urging them to keep it, as is in the budget to build upon moving forward, particularly with the deficits the fund has had with the late starts and such. I would be in favor of doing both. So I guess just putting that to the members of the commission.
Well, I would volunteer to help work on that, a draft or drafts of that. I don't think I could do anything until Friday, but I was thinking if we could get a draft, and I don't know whether Ms. Nelson, maybe if you're interested in helping, I think the sort of short and sweet type things. But if we could get a draft, I don't know, by Friday or Monday, and then we could share it among our commission and send it sometime next week, I would think that would be fine. Does that work for people?
It does. So let me ask. Well, let's get a motion to draft 2 letters, one to the county council and one to the acting county executive, just expressing our thanks and encouragement to keep the money in the fund. Do you have a motion for that on the floor?
I make a motion.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Yeah, I'd second.
All right. All in favor? You say aye or type aye. Commissioner Tosa, aye.
Aye.
Okay. So then we'll do that, and then Commissioner Dan said he would take the lead. And Commissioner Nelson, did you want to work with Commissioner Dan? Do you have are you able to do that?
I can help.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we have a plan of action, and then we're gonna draft the letters, share it amongst ourselves, give feedback. Everyone can give feedback. And then once we approve it, we'll send them out. And then if we can, we'll watch the hearing for the supplemental budget or be there in person as we move forward. Okay. It is now 6:45. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, we'll see you guys in April. You guys have a wonderful, thank you. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Same to
Good
you.
night.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. You too.